Hello there and a warm evening to all of you here on the news at 6. I'm Tracy Shilshi and in the next 30 minutes I'll be taking you through the day's top developing stories. Let's start with the headlines. Thaw in Indo-Pak ties. Modi holds crucial meeting with the Pakistani counterpart. Nawaz Sharif accepts the invitation to attend the SAARC summit in Islamabad next year. Sharif assures a speedy 2611 trial. 15th Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit agrees to make India and Pakistan full members. Starts process for their entry to China-Russia-led security bloc. Countdown starts at Sriharikota launchpad for the PSLV C-28 rocket launch. ISRO to put into space its heaviest payload yet. 5 UK satellites weighing 1,440 kilograms. And ahead of the full European Union summit on Sunday, Greek MPs are to vote on Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras' tough new proposals to secure a third bailout. The top story this evening, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his Pakistani counterpart Nawaz Sharif decided to revive the stalled dialogue process during their meet on the sidelines of the SCO summit today. Breaking ice after talks were called off in August last year, the two leaders agreed broadly on stepping up efforts against terror. Pakistan also agreed to expedite the trial of the 2611 accused, while India called for action against Lakhvi for peaceful ties.
This was the first time Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif sat for talks since the Foreign Secretary level talks were suspended in August last year. Expectations were that the two sides will rake up the issue of terror. The two leaders decided that the national security advisors of both countries would meet in Delhi to discuss all issues relating to terrorism, signalling a thaw in relations. Pakistan has agreed to expedite the Mumbai attacks trial. Sharif sought discussions over all outstanding issues, including Jammu and Kashmir.
Both leaders condemned terrorism in all its forms and agreed to cooperate with each other to eliminate this menace from South Asia.
Both sides agreed to discuss ways and means to expedite the Mumbai case trial, including additional information like providing voice samples. A decision for release of fishermen in each other's custody along with the boats within a period of 15 days. 4, a mechanism for facilitating religious tourism. A meeting in New Delhi between the two NSAs to discuss all issues connected to terrorism.
The two sides also agreed to push for more frequent and face-to-face contact between senior army officers. Modi accepted an invitation from Sharif to attend the SAARC summit next year in Islamabad.
Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif reiterated his invitation to Prime Minister Modi to visit Pakistan for the SAARC summit in 2016. Prime Minister Modi accepted that invitation.
Pakistan's commitment to cooperate with India against terror is a good news before both the countries join SCO as a full member. If it happens, it will give a boost to the development dynamics of both the countries. But it will be interesting to see when Pakistan Army comes on board with the two countries. Akhilesh Soman with camera person DK Pandey in Ufa, Russia.
Well, mixed reactions followed that Modi-Sharif meeting in Ufa, with opposition parties questioning the need for it when, according to them, the situation had not changed much on the ground. The BJP, however, defended it, saying that the Prime Minister met Sharif on India's terms. In Kashmir, both separatist and mainstream camps welcomed the resumption of the Indo-Pak dialogue and hoped that Kashmir was back in focus soon.
The BJP claims it was a landmark meeting. What's more, party leaders insist that it was done on India's terms, with Pakistan accepting India's terms on terror.
Our Prime Minister's meeting the Pakistan Prime Minister in a very important summit, and it's raising the concern of India, our security concern. Our PM is not raising the issue like the previous government when the then Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh said that Pakistan is also a victim of terrorism.
But not everyone is agreeing with the BJP's perception. Its own ally, the Shiv Sena, called the meeting unfortunate. Sena chief Uddhav Thackeray said nothing had changed on the border.
जो पहले से चल के आई थी बात वही चल रही है. एक फर्क लोगों का अंदाज था या उम्मीद थी कि कुछ तो फर्क होगा, लेकिन आज तक तो वैसा कुछ फर्क दिखाई नहीं दे रहा है। बहुत ही दुख की बात है।
The opposition Congress was equally scathing in its criticism. Party leaders asked what were the circumstances that made this meeting necessary.
बातचीत से पहले पाकिस्तान ने जिस तरह का संकेत दिया, जिस तरह से सीज़फायर वायलेशन किया, जिस तरह हमारे जवान को शहीद किया, क्या इन इश्यूज को एड्रेस किया गया? 26/11 का सवाल उठाया गया। पाकिस्तान ने कहा कि हम इसमें तेजी लेकर के आएंगे इस केस को आगे बढ़ाने के लिए, और कुछ चीज़ों पर शायद सहमति भी बनी हो। लेकिन बुनियादी बात यह है, पाकिस्तान ये वादे कब तक करता रहेगा? पहले भी करता था, आज भी कर रहा है, लेकिन पॉजिटिव रिजल्ट कभी नहीं आया।
पाकिस्तान के प्रति जो मोदी सरकार की रणनीति और नीति है, उसको लेकर के हम निराश हैं। चुनाव से पहले जो बड़ी बातें सीमा पार के आतंकवाद के खिलाफ, घुसपैठ के खिलाफ की गई थी, उस पर कोई कार्रवाई नहीं हुई।
Not everyone was as scathing, however. Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah was cautiously optimistic, calling it a good first step.
I will be very cautious in my reaction. I will say this is the first good step to resume the discussion between the two countries, but it's a long way off. Only good thing that has happened really, I would think, is that the NSAs have now been involved and they will be talking to each other at the highest level, so which I think is something that we should look forward to.
The Modi-Sharif meeting took place in the backdrop of yet another ceasefire violation by Pakistan, the third this week. A BSF Jawan was killed in the sniper fire on Friday at the Karam post of Baramulla sector. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And for more on this, we're joined in the studio today by former Ambassador Bhaskar Balakrishnan. So thank you so much for joining us here on the News at 6. First of all, that Modi-Sharif meeting taking place for about an hour. What would you say is the key takeaway from that meeting? Would you call it a breakthrough as Pakistan is?
Well, I think I would call it a good first step towards resuming a dialogue with Pakistan on many critical issues. And there's no doubt that if we can improve our relationship with Pakistan, there can be huge benefits for both countries. The last thing that the Shanghai Cooperation Organization wants is India and Pakistan fighting each other. SAARC has been paralyzed because of the India-Pakistan differences. Even the 3 agreements on transport which were approved in SAARC could not be concluded because Pakistan did not sign them. And so I think this is a very good first step. One must give credit to Prime Minister Modi for trying to build peace and making the first move. There has been some background to this talk. There were some telephone calls in June, and then there were some contacts through diplomatic channels before this meeting was fixed. So it's not that this has come, all of a sudden.
All right. But then, 2611 probe now back in focus at least. The Congress, of course, saying that Pakistan is not saying anything new. They have always assured for the past few years that, they are going to do a speedy trial, but somehow there's always a hiccup or the other. They come up with something that eventually makes the 2611 trial, at least in that country, redundant. Now they're going to be exchanging voice samples, India and Pakistan. Are you hopeful this time around Pakistan is going to keep its word?
Well, I think, this will become more and more difficult for Pakistan not to move ahead with this process, because don't forget that out of the 170 or 66 people who were killed, there were people from the US citizens and citizens of many other countries who were also killed. So these countries are also keen to see that the perpetrators of this attack are brought to justice. And, additional evidence has been mentioned, like voice samples and so on. So there is some indication that pressure is building up on Pakistan to bring the perpetrators of 2611 to justice, not just from India, but from other countries as well. They are also players in this. And there is also the, pressure from the UN Security Council to take action against terrorist outfits. There again, Pakistan has been relying on China to fight a kind of delaying action. But how long this can go on in the face of international pressure is doubtful. So there is pressure on Pakistan to do something about 2611. We'll have to wait and see how they actually do it. Within Pakistan, there are very powerful forces which are supporting the terrorist outfits. And many of these forces are precisely those which don't want peace with India. So, within Pakistan, there's a dynamics going on, and one will have to see how Nawaz Sharif can handle this.
All right. Very quickly, of course, Mr. Balakrishnan, the Kashmir issue, it was completely ignored in this particular meeting. We do understand they, of course, were meeting on the sidelines. They were not expected to discuss everything possible. But, when, there's a ceasefire violation that takes place 3 times in a week, you would presume that Prime Minister Modi may actually pick that up. He did pick up a prickly issue like Lakvi. So why not pick the Kashmir issue as well?
Well, the Lakvi issue is a clearly defined legal case. And there's no doubt that it was a terrorist incident. As far as the Kashmir issue is concerned, well, we would like to have peace and tranquility on the LOC and, try to see what can be done about Kashmir. So I think the point is that both sides will probably try to maintain peace and tranquility on the line of control to whatever extent that is possible, given the ground situation. After all, there are militants who are operating there who would like to create incidents there. So we'll have to see how that goes. If we can have the military in contact with each other, the NSAs in contact with each other, that I think will serve as a way of defusing any kind of incident which might happen. We'll have to wait and see how this works.
All right, we'll leave it there for the moment. Mr. Balakrishnan, thanks so much for joining us here on Rajya Sabha TV. Meanwhile, India and Pakistan also in focus in UFA and Russia because they would be inducted into the Shanghai Cooperation Organization or the SCO next year. Regular membership of the two countries who are currently SCO observers has been approved at the summit that opened today. Here are the details.
The 15th SCO summit opened in Ufa in Russia on Friday. The summit has paved the way for nuclear-armed rivals India and Pakistan to begin the process of joining the security bloc led by China and Russia. It would be the first time the grouping has expanded since it was set up in 2001.
मैं आपको आश्वस्त करता हूं कि भारत एससीओ को हर क्षेत्र में सहयोग देगा। इस अवसर पर मैं पाकिस्तान को एससीओ में शामिल होने पर बहुत बधाई देता हूं। भारत की सदस्यता यूरेशिया के विभिन्न क्षेत्रों को फिर से जोड़ने और एकीकृत करने के हमारे साझे दृष्टि को आगे ले जाएगा।
The SCO groups China, Russia, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan. The grouping was originally formed to fight threats posed by radical Islam and drug trafficking from neighboring Afghanistan.
भारत एससीओ क्षेत्र के देशों के साथ मिलकर मानव संसाधन विकास, इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी, फार्मास्यूटिकल्स और हेल्थ केयर, बैंकिंग और कैपिटल मार्केट, स्मॉल एंड मीडियम एंटरप्राइजेस, माइक्रो फाइनेंस, फूड सिक्योरिटी, एग्रीकल्चर के क्षेत्रों में काम करने के लिए तैयार है।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi also expressed willingness to contribute to the development of infrastructure in the region and said that India's SCO membership was a natural extension of its bilateral relationships and mirrors the region's place in India's future. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, our correspondent Akhilesh Suman is tracking all developments there in Ufa and has been sending us those reports, joining us in fact now on the phone line. Akhilesh, give us a sense really of India and Pakistan's inclusion as permanent members in the SCO. How crucial is this going to be for India?
Actually, it is very important for India because Pakistan is one country which can give connectivity to India with the Central Asian countries. And you know, SCO is a conglomeration of China, Russia and Central Asian countries with Pakistan and India now. Now, next is in the line is Nepal and Afghanistan. So if Pakistan comes into, if India and Pakistan comes into SCO, I think this will be beneficiary to India because India badly needs connectivity with the Central Asian nations. And I think that with Pakistan joining the SCO and Pakistan Prime Minister meeting Prime Minister Narendra Modi today, it is in a way positive development because they met before SCO, formal SCO summit began, and they jointly talked that it is a core responsibility of both India and Pakistan to ensure that there should be no terrorism in the region. And I think in SCO agenda, terrorism is one of the most important things. And if you see the terrorism, energy security and connectivity are three important things for SCO that will make it successful. And I think that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has taken the right step and very calculated step, and he has even offered that India is ready to create connectivity, ready to create infrastructure, whatever is necessary for the success of SCO. I think it is going to be a positive state, Stacey.
All right, we'll leave it there. Akhilesh, thanks so much for joining us with that. With that, we'll take a quick break here, but still ahead on the show, we've got international news. The IMF is predicting India's growth rate to overtake China's for the second consecutive year. We'll get you details of that in a bit.
Sharif Modi meet in Ufa, alongside India-Pakistan tensions. What have the two leaders clinched? Have they broken the long-standing ice between the neighbours? Watch the big picture at 6:30 p.m. only on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. Now, the Indian Space Research Organisation, or ISRO, is all set for its heaviest commercial mission later today. It will put into orbit 5 British satellites at one go on board the PSLV C-28 rocket. The launch is scheduled for 9:58 p.m. tonight from the Satish Dhawan Space Centre in Sriharikota. With an overall load of over 1,440 kilograms, this launch will become the heaviest commercial mission ever undertaken by ISRO and its commercial arm Antriksh Corporation. Out of the 5 satellites, 3 are for Earth observation, while the other 2 are technology demonstrators. The observation satellites will primarily be used for imaging and monitoring resources and environment, besides disaster management efforts. These satellites can image any target on the Earth's surface every day. Major application areas include surveying the resources on Earth and its environment, managing urban infrastructure, and monitoring disasters. The life of the mission is 7 years. On to politics, and the BJP-led NDA has dealt a blow to RJD-JDU alliance in the Bihar Legislative Council elections today. BJP and its allies won 14 out of the 24 seats. The ruling alliance, led by Chief Minister Nitish Kumar, managed to win just 9, while the remaining 1 seat was claimed by an independent candidate currently lodged in a Patna jail. The victory, coming months before that crucial assembly election, has made BJP confident of returning back to power in the state. Now, the IMF has estimated India's growth rate will overtake that of China for a second successive year in 2016. According to the IMF, India will be the world's fastest growing economy at 7.5% next year. IMF lauded India's robust growth, but the data was still lower than the estimates of the Finance Ministry here in India and the RBI. The Finance Ministry, in fact, expects GDP growth to be 8 to 8.5% in 2015-16. While the RBI has estimated it at 7.6%. The IMF data projected China's growth at 6.8%. It even lowered its current year global economy growth forecast to 3.3%, slightly lower than the earlier estimate of 3.5%, reflecting an unexpected setback to economic activity, mostly in North America. With that, let's get you through some quick national news updates in Nationwide. Markets gained pace in late trade today to snap a 3-day losing streak. The Sensex gained 88 points to settle at 27,661, and Nifty ended above the 8,350 mark on hopes of a bailout deal to keep Greece in the Eurozone at a weekend summit of European leaders. A Go Air Airlines plane carrying at least 170 passengers from Mumbai to Chennai hit an aero bridge after landing at the Chennai airport on Friday. While no one was hurt in the incident, a portion of the front door of the aircraft was damaged. The Directorate General of the Civil Aviation has ordered a probe into the incident. The Amarnath Yatra was suspended today due to continuous rainfall since last night. More than 2,000 passenger vehicles were left stranded on the Jammu-Srinagar National Highway. It has been closed due to massive landslides at several places. 2 pilgrims died on Thursday due to cardiac arrest, taking the death toll to 6 since the Yatra began on the 2nd of July. International news now. The Eurogroup has said that the new Greek proposal on securing a vital third bailout is thorough. A decision on the bailout will be made at a Eurozone finance meeting on Saturday. The proposal that is aimed at staving off a financial collapse contains several elements from the referendum that was rejected last Sunday. The proposal will be voted upon in the Greek parliament today.
The Eurozone has said that the latest proposals for reforms by the Greek government were serious and credible. France has urged talks to resume between Greece and its international creditors with the aim of reaching a deal.
Les Grecs viennent d'adresser leurs propositions. Elles étaient attendues. Les Grecs viennent de montrer une détermination à vouloir rester dans la zone euro. Parce que le programme qu'ils présentent est sérieux et crédible. Ensuite, parce qu'ils vont le soumettre au Parlement, ce qui montrera de la force, de l'engagement, mais je le dis aussi du courage. Alors les discussions maintenant doivent s'engager, doivent reprendre, mais avec la volonté de conclure. Telle est la démarche de la France.
Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras has offered last-minute concessions to try to save his country from bankruptcy. These include more tax hikes, pension reforms, defense spending cuts, a timetable for privatizing state assets, and hikes in VAT for hotels and restaurants. Most of these proposals were voted upon and rejected in a referendum by Greek citizens on Sunday. The fresh proposal will now be put to vote in the parliament.
Κοιτάξτε, αν τα διλήμματα που μπαίνουν είναι πολύ σκληρά. Έχουμε απέναντί μας μια αδιάλακτη Γερμανία, η οποία δεν δέχεται να συζητήσει ό,τι συζητάει όλος ο κόσμος. Πρέπει να σταθμίσουμε τα μακροπρόθεσμα εθνικά συμφέροντα, να πάρουμε πολιτικό χρόνο για να συνταχθούμε. Η Ευρώπη δεν θα είναι ίδια από εδώ και πέρα, αλλά το ιστορικό και γεωπολιτικό μας όριο είναι αυτή η Ευρώπη. Πρέπει να δούμε πώς θα επιβιώσουμε σε αυτό το ασφικτικό πλαίσιο.
There are conflicting views among the public, however. Thousands of Greeks rallied in Athens on Thursday in support of staying with Europe. But the other side of proposed reforms can be seen in the faces of these pensioners who queued up outside banks in Athens to collect their pensions. They are angry that Tsipras' new proposal includes pension reforms. Post the Greek vote, Eurozone finance ministers will meet in Brussels on Saturday. A meeting of Eurogroup leaders is scheduled for Sunday afternoon, followed by a full EU summit 2 hours later. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, as another deadline to seal a nuclear deal with Iran slips by, accusations are flying high. Senior Iranian officials have charged the US and European powers with backtracking on recent commitments made in negotiations over Tehran's nuclear program. Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif has on Friday said that Western powers are now throwing up new red lines at the talks. He said a deal was unlikely to be reached on Friday and that negotiators would probably spend the weekend in Vienna. Zarif has been holding intense meetings for more than 2 weeks with US Secretary of State John Kerry to try and hammer out a final agreement limiting Iran's nuclear program in return for withdrawing economic sanctions. And now let's get you some more international news in Global Buzz. At least 23 people, mostly women and children, died in a stampede during a charity in Bangladesh's Mymensingh city. The stampede took place when thousands of people gathered in front of a house of a businessman to receive free gifts and clothes on the occasion of the holy month of Ramadan. Police have detained 7 people, including the owner of the factory. High alert has been sounded in China for Super Typhoon Chanhom. More than 10,000 people have been evacuated and thousands of fishing vessels have returned to harbour. The super typhoon is expected to make a landfall by Friday night or Saturday morning with wind speed of up to 187 kilometers per hour. Indonesian authorities shut 5 airports today, including the popular holiday islands of Bali and Lombok, due to a volcanic eruption. Mount Raung in East Java has been erupting for nearly a week now. Over 100 passengers were stranded at the airport. Flights are expected to resume on Saturday morning. South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley signed a bill to relegate the Confederate flag. The move was called for last month after the shooting inside Charleston Church, in which at least 9 people were killed. The flag is considered as a symbol of the nation's racist past. Up next, sports news. India has set a target of 256 runs for Zimbabwe in the first ODI after Rayudu steadies ship with his second century.
In other countries like Japan and China, they are eating fermented soya product. Indians are not so used to those fermented products, so we thought of making it mixing it with flour to make it chapati. And to make it chapati, we need to remove some anti-nutritional factors, so we worked on those parameters.
Watch Eureka with Dr. Anita Rani, Principal Scientist at Directorate of Soya Bean Research on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. Let's get to some cricket action now. India was struggling in the first of the three-match ODI series against Zimbabwe in Harare today. India's starting lineup fell in quick succession, posting just 87 for 5 on the board. The hosts kept India under check with the new ball but released pressure during the middle overs. Rayudu and Stuart Binney then put up a 160-run stand to post a respectable total for the team. Registering their highest ODI scores, Rayudu's 124 and Binney's 77 put the team back on track. India finished with a score of 255 for 6 to defend. In reply, Zimbabwe got off to a shaking start, losing 3 wickets. And let's give you some more sporting action in Sports Beat now. India's Sania Mirza and her women's doubles partner Martina Hingis will take on the pair of Cops-Jones and Spears for a berth in the final at Wimbledon. Earlier, India's Leander Paes partnered Hingis to enter the mixed doubles semi-finals. They took just 44 minutes to drub the Polish-Russian third seeds Marcin Matkowski and Elina Vesnina 6-2, 6-1. In the men's singles semi-finals today, top-seeded Novak Djokovic will clash with Richard Gasquet. Djokovic is eyeing to set up a final clash with either second-seeded Roger Federer or third-seeded Andy Murray, who will face off in the second semi-finals. On Thursday, Serena Williams defeated Maria Sharapova to enter the final in the women's singles. She will go for her 6th title against 20th-seeded Garbine Muguruza tomorrow. Australia fell short of England's first innings score 430 in the first Ashes Test at Cardiff. The Aussies folded for 308 runs. Opener Roger missed his century by just 5 runs. James Anderson took 3 wickets while Broad, Wood and Moeen Ali picked up 2 each. That's all we have for you on the news at 6. Coming up next is The Big Picture.